Hello everyone, I am Mohammed Rahman, a mechanical engineer. So for today's video, I wanna continue to talk about this topic that I've been discussing, for the past few days, which is why marriages in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, tends to last forever. But for today's video specifically, I want to talk about conflict resolution. You see, I talk about how the people in these societies solve their problems. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, of course I did observe that marriages and families in these regions do tend to last forever. But this is not because the people in these societies do not face any problems or don't have any challenges or difficulties that they have to go through. So today we're going to talk about conflict resolution. I'm just going to discuss what I observe and how these people in Southeast Asia solve their problems, how they resolve their conflicts. All right. So to talk about conflict resolution, I think it will be better. It will be much more helpful to talk about the general atmosphere, of these societies. You see, to talk about because talking about the general atmosphere will give us a better understanding, of their methods, that they use to solve problems. You see, and in talking about the atmosphere, I think there are a few things we should keep in mind. A few things which I observe, which I think plays a role or play a significant impact on the atmosphere in these societies. And the first thing is that I observe, which I think plays a role and have some kind of impact on the atmosphere of this society, is that in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, there are no internal tension, between the males and the females in these societies. You see, so there are no internal tensions, there are no internal conflict between the male and the female. So for example, you will not find any movement, in these societies, like for example, any movement by the female trying to destroy or try to take a revenge upon their men in that society. You see, so you will not find any feminism or Me Too and all these movements that we have now in the West. These kind of things in Asia, especially Southeast Asia, just don't exist. The people, from what I observe, the males and the females, they just tend to want to live together, in harmony, and work together in peace. These kind of things. So again, what I observe that have a kind of impact on the atmosphere of this society is that there are no internal tension, there are no internal conflict between the males and the females. So the second thing that I observe, which I think plays a role, which I think have some kind of impact on the atmosphere of these societies, is that you will never see the police or the cops or any government agencies in general. Normally, again, the norm, regardless of what is happening in the family, regardless of what happened in the family, the police will never force themselves into a home, into a family's, into private citizens' home, and humiliate and dehumanize the men in front of their wives, children, and other family members. This is something that is just not there, that just don't exist in Southeast Asia. Again, to the contrary, look at what is happening in our society. This happens all the time. I mean, how many times we see the police, how many times we see the cops forcing themselves into our homes in the U.S., in the West, humiliate, dehumanize the men in front of their wives and children. How many times this happened? This is so common in our society. But again, in Southeast Asia, in general, normally, this does not exist. So this is the second thing that I observe, which I think plays a role, which I think have some kind of impact on conflict resolution and how people solve their problems. And the last thing that I observe, which I think plays a role, also have an impact on conflict resolution in these societies, is that the husband or the male in the home, in the house, is normally considered the leader of the family. And this, by the way, it is not disputed. You see, this is the case in the home and outside the home. And again, you will not find any group of people. Normally, you will not find any group of people. You will not find any movement in this society to try to change the situation, to overturn the situation. You see, they just have it like this, and they know about it, and they just work with it. So these are the three things that I observe, which I think have some kind of impact on the atmosphere of this society. So now let's talk about conflict resolution. Again, the reason why I want to talk about this is that because even though I mentioned earlier that the families, that the marriages tend to last forever, the families tend to be more stable. This is not because these people are perfect or don't have any problems, don't have any challenges that they have to go through. Of course not. They too have problems. They too have difficulties that they have to go through. But again, now let's talk about conflict resolution. Let's talk about how they solve their problems. For this specifically, I observed two methods of how the people solve that problem in Southeast Asia. And the first method is that whenever something happened in the family, in the home, the husband and the wife will come together in the home, in the family, without getting anyone outside involved to solve their problem. So only the wife and the husband will come together, work together, and solve the problem in the home. So this is again, from what I observed, this is the main method they use to solve that problem. Just the husband and wife working together inside the home to solve the problem. You see, then someone might say, well, Muhammad, what happens if something happens that is so big, that is so huge, that the husband and wife cannot solve by themselves? What happens if something is so big, something is so big, something is so massive, which the husband and the wife are not able to resolve by themselves? Well, in this case, what will happen is the parents of the husband with other family members, and also the parents of the wife with other family members will come together, actually come into the home and stay in the home for days or even weeks and work on that specific problem until that problem is resolved. So this is what would happen. So in no way, there is no instances where they will take that problem outside of the family or outside of the home. If something happened that is so drastic that the husband and wife cannot resolve, then other family members, again, most of the time, the parents of the wives and the parents of the husbands will come to the home, stay in the home days, sometimes weeks, and work on that problem until they solve that problem. So these are the two methods that I saw that they use in this society to solve their problems. And again, what you observe is that there are no prevalent police interventions in people's family. There are no family court. There are no judges. There are no lawyers. You see, so it is just the people within the family solve the problems. You see, now, for example, like what we have now, in our society in the U.S., we have the family court, the family laws, the lawyers, all these parasites that actually inflame and benefiting from the misery of the people. While in other societies, especially as we're talking about, specifically in this case, Southeast Asia, they don't have this kind of things. There are no large amount of people benefiting from the destruction of families, from the misery of the people, like we do in the West, like we do in the U.S. So the people in Southeast Asia, again, they just solve that problem within the family. All right. So basically, this is all I want to discuss for this topic. So and also lastly, I want to mention that now we have our stores in the description box, so please check that out. And again, thanks for watching and thanks for listening.